In many ways, it was a transitional year. Four-time drivers champion Geoff Brabham handed over the title to the bearer of a famous racing name, Juan Fangio. And the world's largest motor building company, Toyota, dedicated the resources to winning the Camel GT Championship and did so in dominating fashion. In the next half hour, we'll take a look back at the highlights of the season past, talk to some of the personalities involved about some of the issues in IMSA Camel GT racing, and with me to do that, ESPN road racing analyst David Hobbs. David, it was quite a roller coaster season from the very beginning.
Well, it was, Bob. It got off. It looked like it was going to be a repeat of 1991. Nissan won the 24-hour race at Daytona, but as it was a European specs car, it scored no points. And in fact, the first three races were points scored by three different manufacturers: Jaguar, Nissan, and Toyota. Toyota winning Sebring 12-hour, arguably one of the toughest races on the calendar. And then the next four races were won alternately by Toyota and Jaguar. So it looked like it was going to be a drivers' and manufacturers' championship right down to the wire.
And that's the way it very nearly turned out. Fangio versus Jones, with Geoff Brabham in close attendance. We'll be back in a moment to take a look at those first three races of the 1992 season. Stay with us. The 1992 IMSA Season in Review is brought to you by Bud Light. If you want great taste that won't fill you up and never lets you down, make it a Bud Light. 1992 IMSA Camel GT season. The first three races of the campaign, all in Florida, could not have been more different in terms of the cars and drivers in the competition. 24 hours on the high banks of Daytona International Speedway, 2 hours on the streets of Miami, Florida, and then 12 hours on the rough runways at Sebring Regional Airport. Each race produced its own historic first and a few surprises along the way. The Rolex 24 at Daytona had a distinctly Japanese quality. Juan Fangio took the pole in Dan Gurney's All-American Racers Toyota, shattering the track record by 2 seconds. But on the first lap, he was overhauled by the Nissan, driven by Masahiro Hasemi, Kazuyoshi Hoshino, and Toshio Suzuki. From that point on, the Nissan would lead nearly the entire race, a fitting reward for a heavy schedule of testing and preparation. A strong second was the Jaguar of Davy Jones, Scott Pruitt, David Brabham, and Scott Goodyear, who overcame a broken gearbox and failing brakes with the help of some stout pit work in the wee hours of the morning. At the checkered flag, Hasemi, Hoshino, and Suzuki took the first major endurance racing victory for an all-Japanese team. Yet, as a special entry, they were ineligible for championship points. A full load of Camel GT points, therefore, went to Jaguar, hoping to end a string of 4 straight seasons without a championship. Round 2 brought a sprint race on the streets of Miami, and, as often happens when you put lots of fast cars and hungry drivers close together between concrete walls, a big first-lap crash involving the Toyota of P.J. Jones and the Acura of Camel Lights champion Parker Johnstone. Johnstone returned to win his class. Jones was finished. The star of the show was the new Jaguar XJR-14, powered by a 3.5-liter Formula One engine. Davy Jones broke the lap record by 4 seconds to take the pole, but the car's unique left-hand gear shift caught Jones out, causing him to spin twice. Four-time defending series champion Geoff Brabham had problems of his own, a windshield full of oil that made finding his pit the equivalent of landing an airplane in the fog. Eventually, Brabham's crew talked him into his pit stall and managed to wash his windows, and it turned out to be a good thing, because when Jones spun a second time, the Jaguar would not refire. Brabham squeezed by to record his first win in nearly a year.
The car was running really well. I could have run strong all day, and I felt like that's what I had to do, was just to keep the pressure on, and hopefully they made a mistake or whatever happened to him happened, and that was the plan, and it worked for us.
Next up, the 12 Hours of Sebring celebrated its 40th birthday with more than 100,000 fans and Nissan looking for its 4th straight victory. Things looked good for Brabham and company early on as Nissan led, but as daylight ran out, so did the team's luck. A broken engine in one car and electrical problems in the other let Juan Fangio and Englishman Andy Wallace rocket away into the darkness for Toyota's long-sought first endurance victory.
The full crew that it was working wonderful. The car was absolutely great. Toyota All-American Racers and the full team did absolutely great.
It seems hard to believe without the benefit of retrospect, but the race in Miami, the second round of the '92 campaign, was the last time Geoff Brabham and Nissan would visit Victory Lane. Quite a change for the series' most dominant car and driver of the last few seasons. As the Camel GTP cars and stars moved north out of Florida, it quickly became apparent that the protagonists in the '92 championship would be Toyota and Jaguar. At Road Atlanta, Davy Jones scored a clean sweep of pole, fast lap, and most laps led. At the start, P.J. Jones and Geoff Brabham tangled behind the early leaders, but that was nothing compared to what came later. First, 1987 Camel GT champion Chip Robinson's Nissan suffered a high-speed tire failure. Despite the mammoth crash, Robinson was not seriously hurt. Incredibly, Brabham's car did the same thing at nearly the same spot shortly afterward. Perhaps even more miraculous, like Robinson, despite the violence of the wreck, Brabham was unhurt. Graphic testimony to the integrity of current IMSA car-building technology. Meanwhile, Davy Jones and Jaguar were long gone, toying with the field en route to their first outright win of the year and their second straight at Road Atlanta. The victory firmed up Jones's grip on the all-important Camel GT points lead.
It's the first time that I can remember in a long, long time, maybe even back to Formula 4 days, when I've been able to win back-to-back the same event twice in a year. And I think that was more a personal goal than anything. But particularly with the whole Bud Light, Jaguar, Castrol team, they worked really hard between Miami and this race with this new car. And it's a big relief off my shoulders to be able to pull this off and win it.
That grip appeared to grow firmer still on a beautiful Memorial Day weekend at Connecticut's Lime Rock Park. Davy Jones and his Jaguar took their third straight pole together, more than a second clear of the field. Jones then asserted his domination until lap 20, when the Jaguar broke a wheel in a top gear corner, plunging off the road and into the tire wall. Once again, however, the chassis did its job of protecting the driver, and Jones was able to climb out and walk away. From second place, Fangio sailed through to take his second victory of the season, marking the nephew of five-time Formula One world champion Juan Manuel Fangio of Argentina, in the words of team owner Dan Gurney, as a chip off the old uncle. Just a few days later at Mid-Ohio, the Bud Light team produced a new Jaguar, which Davy Jones promptly used to break the lap record. He then ran off into a steady rain to score his second clean sweep of the season. Fangio slipped into second and drove conservatively in the rain to protect his runner-up spot in the championship, while Geoff Brabham ran a similar strategy to finish third. Up front, Jones laid easy claim to his second dominating victory of the season and remained the points leader as the halfway mark in the season approached.
We really needed it after what happened last weekend at Lime Rock and not scoring any points from having a nice margin there, a cushion. I just got to thank the whole Bud Light Jaguar crew. I mean, I feel I have the best team in the business, the best guys in the business working on my car.
The halfway mark came on the streets of New Orleans, where the Big Easy was anything but for Jones and Geoff Brabham. Both drivers found themselves on the runoff road at the very first corner, and by the time each was straightened out, the race was effectively over. Juan Fangio swept away to lead every lap, while Brabham fought his way back into second. With barely a lap to go, P.J. Jones tagged Davy Jones and scraped by for third place. Fangio's third victory of the season made it increasingly clear that 1992 would be a two-man battle for the title, Juan Fangio and Davy Jones.
He was trying to get the third position, and David locked the tire, and he couldn't stop. I mean, we didn't touch everything. It was absolutely fair all the time.
And so at the halfway point of the '92 campaign, Davy Jones led Juan Fangio and Geoff Brabham. Jones looking for his first driver's championship in 5 seasons with the Jaguar team in Camel GT racing. We'll be back with more on the IMSA Year in Review. Welcome back to IMSA's Camel GT postseason banquet and our review of the 1992 season. Beginning the first race of the second half of the year in Watkins Glen, New York, the Jaguar suffered mechanical problems, and Juan Fangio for Toyota inherited a healthy lead and the victory. But beginning after that, David, Toyota simply turned up the wick and in a straight fight left everybody in their dust.
It was absolutely to everybody's amazement too, Bob, because when the Jaguar brought out the XJR14 at Miami at the beginning of the season, everybody thought their day was done because this was absolutely undeniably the most high-tech car there, including its Formula One V8 engine. But as you've already said, from Watkins Glen on, the poor old Jag was not in with a chance.
On California's Monterey Peninsula, Jaguar once again came up short to Toyota. But this time, Juan Fangio wasn't the faster of the All-American Toyota teammates. In the 98 car, P.J. Jones took his first pole of the season, then spent much of the race in close company with the Jaguars. Fangio was out to atone for 1991, when a sure victory was lost to a pit infraction. This time, there were no mistakes, as Toyota finished first and second, Fangio's third straight victory giving him the Camel GT points lead. A week later at Portland, the Toyota twins swept the front row and duplicated their Laguna triumph, though not in the same order. For most of the race, Fangio led PJ, and the pair seemed to be able to do anything they wanted with the field, though that failed to prevent both from taking to the green stuff every now and then to get around slower traffic. When the time came for final pit stops, Fangio pitted first, then PJ. As Jones hustled number 98 back out onto the racetrack, the crew had performed quicker service on his car. Jones found himself ahead of his teammate, looking for a possible first career Camel GT victory. Meanwhile, Davy Jones's rotten run of luck continued, giving Fangio an opportunity to fatten his points lead. Ironically, P.J. Jones helped Davy Jones by holding off his teammate.
The car's been great. I mean, it's a brand new car at Laguna, and we had a new aerodynamic package, and I mean, it was fabulous. I think that's the best race car I've ever had, you know, through the years of racing. And I mean, it was flawless. I mean, I could run it as hard as I wanted, and it stuck to the ground. It was just like it was when it was on brand new tires 30 laps into it.
At Wisconsin's Road America, Davy Jones's job was simple: beat Fangio or risk losing any shot at the Camel GT Championship. As it turned out, the race was all but decided before the green flag was thrown. While the Toyotas raced around together in lockstep, there was no Jaguar to be seen. A broken wheel, much like the one at Lime Rock, had thrown the Jaguar into the barriers during the final moments of the warm-up, with similarly catastrophic results. Thus, the last the crowds at Road America saw of the XJR-14 in action came in the pre-race. Lacking a spare car, Jaguar went home. The Toyota team took no chances. P.J. Jones followed Fangio home in yet another 1-2 finish, clinching Toyota's manufacturer's crown and bringing Fangio within 1 point of the driver's title.
Fantastic. I mean, it was a wonderful job from the full team. Everybody was working for the championship. The full team, both guys from 98 and 99, everything was working really great. The car was very good, very fast, very consistent, and I was just trying to take care of the equipment, but, you know, everything held together like always. Everything was wonderful.
Now, following the Road America event, controversy reared its head. Charges were leveled that Juan Fangio and the Toyota team were benefiting from expensive custom fuel blends that were possibly illegal under IMSA specifications. IMSA did some tests and levied some penalties that were subsequently overturned, and the case was closed. But it did raise the issue, David, of how IMSA handles the balance of cost-effectiveness and high-tech in the world's most diverse racing series.
Well, it does, Bob, but the fact remains that Toyota is the largest, if not the largest, the second largest manufacturer of cars in the world. And when it comes to resources and high tech, they've really got it. They've also got Dan Gurney, a man who is absolutely determined to win this championship, and they got Juan Fangio, a driver who is determined to win it. And I really do think that they won the championship through absolutely hard work and dedication, not by cheating on the fuel.
Well, we took a walk through the paddock and spoke with some of the series participants about how they feel on the issue of high-tech versus cost-effectiveness in IMSA.
The problem sanctioning bodies have in this world is technology is overtaking them. And if you start limiting active suspension as a good example, that's a very plus for safety. Maybe not necessarily the way racing teams are going about it, but it is a benefit to the public down the road, and that's what racing is about.
It's our responsibility as a sanctioning body to provide an even playing field in this area, and unfortunately the technology in that area is something that has very little to do with racing and needs to become a constant, and it is a variable, and a variable we will have to eliminate.
It's a very difficult series because the cars are so technical. I mean, it's a technical exercise, and it's becoming more so as other things become known, and there's other systems, and the electronics age is upon us and in us. I mean, you have to be making use of it, and it just makes it more difficult every day.
I think that the costs have to be controlled. You know, we don't have to have a series that's so technically advanced that nobody can afford to run it, but we do need the cars to be quick. You know, we do need to be somewhat exotic, but you know, we all know what happened to the World Sports Car Championship in Europe. You know, if you cost it out of existence, you know, nobody can afford to play.
One final note on the great fuel flap in 1992. Following the Road America controversy, IMSA went to specified fuel blends for the final 2 races of the season. When we come back, we'll show you how it all turned out. Welcome back to our review of the 1992 IMSA Camel GT season. Going into the year's final 2 events, Davy Jones and Jaguar needed every available point in order to have any hope of derailing Juan Fangio and Toyota from taking the championship. As it turned out, it was Toyota teamwork that clinched the title for Fangio. Like the manufacturer's title, Juan Fangio clinched the Camel GT driver's crown at Phoenix before the green flag. When teammate P.J. Jones beat Davy Jones for pole position and the bonus point that goes with it, Fangio had the title. Freed of having to help Fangio, P.J. led the race easily until a push from Price Cobb's Mazda put Jones backwards into the tire wall. Fangio motored away to his 7th win of the season and an insurmountable lead in the championship. As usual, Davy Jones did all he could, chasing Fangio to the checkered flag. But for Jones and Jaguar, there would be only frustration. Ever the gracious winner, Fangio spoke for drivers everywhere when he described the importance of winning a major championship and then turned his thoughts to the memory of a friend.
It's the only thing that the driver can do for a team, so that's why I'm very, very proud, very happy, and like I said before also, I didn't say anything during the full year. I was thinking about having this championship for somebody that was very helpful in my full career. He died 1 year ago. His name is Juan Manuel Bordeo. So this is for you, Juan, wherever you are.
With the championships decided, the season finale at Del Mar, California offered a rare opportunity for every racer to set strategy aside and simply put the hammer down. Fangio nipped Davy Jones at the first turn for the early lead, and the battle began in earnest. It was too much for the new champion's mount. Fangio's car suffered a blown head gasket, the first to retire. That moved Davy Jones out front until Jones spun onto an escape road in the Jaguar and eventually broke a drive shaft. Enter P.J. Jones, the son of Indy 500 champion Parnelli, who made it stick. His 2nd victory of the year, the 7th straight win for Toyota, just 1 short of the all-time series record. For Dan Gurney and his team, it was time for a celebration well earned. And so the 1992 Camel GT season was history. David, among other things, it was a year of unprecedented factory involvement, which had an impact on car count. A lot of the privateers couldn't compete, but that may change in '93.
Yes, Bob, IMSA have instituted a package designed specifically to help the privateer. They've got incentives, bonuses, different point system, so that should be very good for the series in the long term. Also, the World Sports Car Championship has been cancelled in Europe. This is going to free up a lot of cars, teams, and drivers, all of whom can now come and race in IMSA. So 1993 should be an absolutely cracking year.
Well, don't take our word for participants.
It was a very good season, but it certainly hasn't been one of our best in the sense of fields and things like that. But basically, it was a very good year, particularly, as you mentioned, in a time where economically worldwide this form of racing's got a lot of problems, or has had a lot of problems. But I think we did a very good job. We had good crowds, we had good events, we had good competition, and we've got good plans for the future to make it better.
In 1992, rumors persisted that high-tech, high-dollar prototype sports car racing was in trouble. Fueling the fire was IMSA's constant struggle to level the playing field for both the big bucks factory teams and the out-of-pocket privateers.
The goal has always been to provide a formula and a type of motorsports that has quite a bit of creativity and quite a bit of ingenuity involved with it. In a sense, we're the last developmental type of racing left. Everything else has gotten very spec. you know, our challenge for the future is to maintain that, but with some obvious limits.
IMSA has to continue with high technology, which doesn't necessarily mean high cost. They have to look at it very carefully, and no one's done it before, but IMSA has done a very outstanding job considering all the variables. They've managed to orchestrate it very well.
It's pretty hard to say because it's how many dollars have you got. But boy, you know, you see somebody like David Tennyson who's going to just done a dynamite job. Absolutely got to be the #1 privateer out there. He hasn't hurt his equipment. He hasn't spent a lot of money. He's in it. He's done a clean job with it. He's, you know, he races hard with it. I think he's done just a great job, and it shows you what you can do.
Another problem facing the Camel GT is exposure. Sponsorship is a function of television, and in the past, IMSA has lacked a consistent TV schedule.
There's no doubt the series hasn't grown. There's no question about that. And, you know, who else do you look for to ask those questions other than the sanctioning body? So, you know, I think the television package was handled very poorly, you know, over the winter last year. And the problem, you know, because of that, the problem we have is the cars are so expensive to run. I mean, in my opinion, it costs more to run a GTP car than it does an Indy car. And then the sponsors have to have that return to make it worthwhile.
If the leadership and if the other conditions that are beyond our control can come through, why, it can be a very viable, very terrific series.
Progress began before the '92 season ended, when officials unveiled a comprehensive TV package and new rules for 1993. Among other things, officials attacked the cost issue by broadening eligibility for older cars, while at the same time adding weight to cars powered by 3.5-liter purebred racing engines to limit their efficiency, shrinking fuel tanks to add pit stops and promote close racing, and banning exotic technologies such as carbon wheels and brakes and electronically controlled transmissions. Then, following a meeting between teams, officials, and race promoters in November, IMSA announced a dramatic restructuring of the entire series effective in 1994. Called World Sports Cars, you can expect to see flat-bottomed, open-cockpit two-seater race cars powered by production-based engines, mostly V6s, with a ban on turbocharging. The idea is to cut car costs by up to 2/3. Whatever happens, it'll be a whole new ball game.